You'll never know just how much I miss you. You'll never know just how much I care. And if I tried, I still couldn't hide my love for you. You ought to know, for haven't I told you so a million or more times? You went away and my heart went with you.
Okay, you fans of popular culture, I'm at the former stomping grounds of the king of cool himself, Steve McQueen, who lived here at 14 years old. I'm gonna take you fans to 3266 Descanso Drive, and thankfully the whole area, as you can see, it's really original from that time, except, wouldn't you know, Steve McQueen's former house where he lived with his stepfather Hal Berry and his mom Julia Ann. And the reason why I'm going to take you here specifically is because it's at the top of the famous Music Box stairs where Laurel and Hardy filmed a famous movie called The Music Box in 1931, and it was released in 1932 April 16th. And here's the top of the stairs. Now I'm going to take you fans to where he lived with his stepfather, like I said. And the reason why I'm going to bring you here is because this is the house where his stepfather beat him severely for stealing hubcaps at age 14. The cop handed Steve over to his stepdad. It could have been right here at this apartment, but I'm going to use a chain of logic and I'm going to say it's over here on the side. So here's 3266. And I'm going to take you fans, I'm going to show you exactly where I think his stepfather, so that Julia wouldn't have heard after he beat him severely at age 14. This is where he would have thrown him down the stairs, where the 14-year-old Steve McQueen blurted out, "You lay your stinking hands on me again and I swear I'll kill ya." Okay, so let's go. And like I said, he could have dragged Steve to the famous Music Box steps, but then I think his dad would have been smart enough to know that would have killed the 14-year-old kid. So I'm thinking he would have thrown him down this short flight of steps. And wouldn't you know, on top of the fact that that's the only house that's been retrofitted from that time period of the 20s and 30s and 40s. They're the only people with their door open. I can't believe it. So anyway, I started out this video with Alice Faye's "You'll Never Know," because that's the song that would have been playing on the radio when Steve McQueen lived here with his stepfather Hal Berry and his mother Julia Ann. Okay, let's go get a shot of it. Okay. Oh yeah, there's the address. Okay, so we are at the right address. They said it was 3266 and a half. It's actually, it still looks from the 30s and 40s. It's just, they stuccoed it, but it's new, and there's 3268. So that was the right address for you fans. And that night, young Steve, he was caught stealing hubcaps with his delinquent friends, his gangster pals. And when the cop handed him over to Hal Berry, he beat him severely. So then again, he could have dragged him here so Julia wouldn't have heard and thrown him down here, the famous Laurel and Hardy stairs. But I think that would have killed him. And his dad after that had Julia sign papers to legally remand him to the famous Chino Boys Republic, where Steve stayed. I would suppose he probably stayed until 1947, and after that he joined the Marine Corps. Then he went to New York City and he studied acting. And here you go. And luckily, like I said, all this property is still extant from that time. Now, getting back to Steve, he was born in 1930, 74 miles away from another Hoosier, famous Hoosier, who was born in 1931, February 8th to be exact. James Dean, another one of the most coolest cats in cinema. He was born in Marion, Indiana, and he was born in 1931. Steve was born in 1930, and Steve McQueen's real name was Terrence Stephen McQueen, and his dad was William Terrence McQueen. And like I said, he was born in 1930. His mom sent him in 1932 to live with her parents, Victor and Lillian Crawford. And then they couldn't wherever they were at living, I guess in that part of Indiana, Beech Grove, where he was born, they ended up going to live with Lillian's brother Clyde. And then Steve lived there until his mom sent for him in 1932. And then he ended up moving with his mom. She had married a second time, and that guy, he was a real mean bastard with poor Steve, and he ended up running away. This was in 1938, and then he was living on the streets, they said, hanging around with a gang, they said, getting into petty crime. And then he ended up in going back to his Uncle Claude's farm in Slater, Missouri. And then that would have been well, like I said, maybe 1938, 39. And then his mother married a third time. She sent for Steve, and she was living here in Echo Park. Now they had a couple of addresses before they ended up here on Descanso Drive. The one address was at 1810 Ewing, Echo Park. I'm going to take you there, you fans. And then the second address was 1966 Preston Avenue. And then they moved to this one, and this is where he threw him down the stairs. And then that's when they remanded him to the Boys Republic. And then, of course, because of the VA and helping veterans at that time to go to college, he was able to study acting. He ended up in New York, and then that's where he met his first wife, Niley Adams, a Filipina, whose real name was Ruby Salvador. And then her manager ended up managing Steve, and then he got him to do a couple of teleplays in New York, and then he was able to sign him up for Wanted Dead or Alive, and that came out in 1950, I think it was 58, around there, and that was on TV for 2 years. And so here you go, you fans of the King of Cool. This would have been Steve's stomping grounds, like I said. And he did 29 films and 11 teleplays. And too bad James Dean didn't live long enough. He was 24 when he died, so we could have at least gotten 29 films out of him, that famous Hoosier. Okay, so let's go around. This is Sunset Boulevard. I'm going to take you fans around the corner to the famous Music Box steps, the opening scene of the Music Box from 1932. So let's take a little ride. As you can see, everything is from that era. It was actually a very dangerous place here, Echo Park. In the 1980s, there was a lot of drug wars going on. It's calmed down since then. Now it's becoming a very upper middle class Tony neighborhood. This is Sunset Boulevard for you fans all over the world. And I'm going to take you to a Vendome. Vendome Street, where the famous Laurel and Hardy film was made in 1931, and then it was released April 16th, 1932, in the depths of the Depression. So let's make a little turn here. This is where Stan blurted out the famous lines to that cop: "You're bounding over your steps." Okay. Carol Lombard, she was from Indiana, and she was from Fort Wayne, Indiana. So Indiana gave us some great actors, people that least impacted the 20th century in films, at least. And okay, here you go, Sunset Boulevard. And so I just want to say, Steve, wherever you're at, thank you for those fantastic films, your unbelievable persona, and your great personality that spelled out how a man should be and should act, at least in that time period. So that's why they called him the King of Cool. Okay, so let's end it. And at least right here, they commemorated the few times a film, I guess because it won Best Short Film of 1932. And here we go, the famous Music Box Steps. So let me end it here for Steve McQueen. Wherever you're at, Steve, good night, sweet prince. And please subscribe to my channel. Thank you.